Good morning, everyone. I'm Bill Essayli. I'm the first assistant U.S. attorney here at the Central District of California. I'm joined on stage by FBI Acting Special Agent in Charge Jeremy Stebbins, IRS Criminal Investigations Special Agent in Charge Tyler Hatcher, and Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman. Before we get to our case today, I just want to make a statement on the Ryan wedding matter this morning. Last night, the FBI apprehended former Olympian and top 10 fugitive Ryan Wedding in Mexico. Ryan Wedding is one of the top 10 people wanted for his drug trafficking and running an extremely dangerous organized criminal enterprise throughout North America, particularly in Canada, but also here in the US. Wedding murdered one of the witnesses in his cases, thinking that it would prevent him from being brought to justice, and that did not work. He's been charged with the murder of that witness as well. We've been searching for him for more than a year. He's been hiding in Mexico. Despite tremendous roadblocks and challenges, our American law enforcement team was able to apprehend him yesterday, and that is a tremendous accomplishment. It's something that would not have been done without the leadership and the aggressiveness of our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and the Director of our FBI, Kash Patel. It's a testament to their relentless effort in the pursuit of justice. He is charged in this district, the Central District of California. We will prosecute him and have the trial here. He is going to make his initial appearance on Monday, we believe, in downtown Los Angeles. More information will follow on that. Now, to get to the topic of today's press conference, we're here to talk about fraud in the state of California. As the President and the Attorney General has mentioned, we are very aggressive in combating, locating, arresting, and charging those who are engaged in fraudulent activities, particularly those against the American taxpayers. We know there's a tremendous amount of fraud in the state of California. When you can look at the unemployment fraud, which was defrauded by more than $30 billion by a lot of fraudsters and international folks. You look at the hundreds of millions of dollars in fraud we've charged in healthcare fraud, and now today we're focused on homelessness fraud. When I got in, I created the Homeless Fraud and Corruption Task Force to take a look at where the billions and billions and billions of dollars have gone that the state of California has spent on homelessness. Because we know it has not gone to the homeless, because the situation has not gotten better at all. And so we wanted accountability for where that money went. Well, today we have an important announcement to make in our investigation. This morning, we arrested this individual, Mr. Alexander Sufer. Mr. Sufer is the executive director of an organization called Abundant Blessings. He was arrested this morning at his home, and he was arrested on a charge of wire fraud, which is a felony that carries a maximum possible sentence of 20 years in federal prison. I want to tell you a little bit about his organization, Abundant Blessings. It was a South Los Angeles-based charity whose purpose is to help house and properly feed the estimated 72,000 homeless people living in the greater Los Angeles area. His organization received more than $23 million in taxpayer funds for the purpose of housing and feeding the homeless. California was pushing this money out quickly. A lot of money went out the door with, frankly, very little vetting, very little checks and balances, and he's one of the individuals that got it in this organization. What was he supposed to do with the money? Well, he was supposed to house, at one point, up to 600 individuals. He was supposed to provide 3 nutritious meals a day, and he was supposed to provide accurate information to LAHSA. Specifically, he entered into agreements with the city and county agencies to house the homeless at sites that he managed, and to pay third parties, including hotels and motels, to provide that housing. And the homeless were supposed to receive at least 3 healthy, balanced, nutritious meals a day. That's what he was contracted to do. That's what the money was intended to be used on. What did he spend the money on? Well, he used the money, taxpayer dollars, he siphoned it into his personal accounts, and he used it to put down a down payment on his $7 million house in Westwood. This is the house you see up here. This is the house that we knocked on the door this morning at 6 a.m. to give him a wake-up call, and where we conducted the arrest of Mr. Sufer this morning. It's a very nice neighborhood in Westwood, and your dollars, your tax-paying dollars, went to buy that house. He also used tax dollars to pay for private school tuition for his children. He also purchased a $125,000 Range Rover. We have that car now. It's our car. We seized it this morning. We towed it. He no longer has that car. He took vacations at luxurious resorts throughout the United States, from Hawaii to Florida, including multiple expensive stays at the Wynn Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. I also understand that he stayed at the Four Seasons in Maui, which many people may recognize from the show White Lotus. So he was staying at very, very nice hotels on your dime. And it also appears that he used about $500,000 to purchase a vacation home in Greece. Isn't that nice? And when he was asked about where this money went, by the way, he also shopped at Hermes, Chanel, and other luxury retailers. You'll probably hear a little bit more about that as well. So he was living the high life while the people suffering homeless on the streets with no shelter, no food, they're living out in the streets. People are literally dying. And this guy is out vacationing, buying homes, buying Range Rovers, and going shopping. That's where the tax dollars went. He lied to investigators when confronted. He provided fake invoices to make it appear that the payments to third vendors were legitimate. They were not. Instead of providing 3 nutritious meals a day, this is what he was providing. Ramen noodles and a microwave. And he was pocketing the rest of the money. The money was not intended for ramen noodles to be microwaved and fed to the homeless. He was supposed to provide nutritious meals. He pocketed the rest of the money. He probably spent $100 you see in that picture, and he pocketed the rest of the money. This is a very significant arrest because it highlights, this is just one individual, one organization, one incident. And this individual received $23 million in the homelessness funds. This is all thanks to the hard work of the individuals you see behind me. It's IRS, FBI, we have OIG with HUD as well. And we created the Homeless Fraud and Corruption Task Force to do just this, to find these fraudster actors and arrest them. This is the 3rd arrest for the task force. You may recall a few months ago we announced the arrest of Cody Holmes, whose scheme involved over $25 million. Stephen Tyler, whose scheme involved over $16 million. And today you have Alex Sufer, who got over $23 million from the state. We know the public is hungry for accountability. We know that the public wants arrests and wants accountability, and I assure you, we are working on it. But we do have to ask for a little bit of patience. It does take time to put these cases together. They have to be done well. We have to follow the evidence. We have to get the bank records. We got to analyze the financials. We got to get interviews, search warrants. It takes time to do a proper case, but I can assure you, justice is coming. Be patient. We have more than 24 more significant investigations in this space ongoing as we speak. I do want to thank our partners. We can't do this on our own. We really thank the FBI, IRS, Criminal Investigation Division, HUD, OIG for their efforts today. Mr. Sufer is expected to make his initial appearance this afternoon in federal court, I believe in Santa Ana. Mr. Sufer is considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I will now invite FBI Acting Special Agent in Charge, Jeremy Stebbins, to make a few comments.
Good morning. I'm Jeremy Stebbins, the Acting Special Agent in Charge of the FBI's Los Angeles Field Office. As First Assistant Essayli discussed, we're here to announce the arrest of Mr. Sufer in conjunction with the IRS and HUD OIG for allegedly defrauding the government by exploiting the homelessness crisis and using that money to fund his lavish lifestyle. The arrest occurred without incident and the FBI and our partners are taking part in the execution of search warrants as we speak. Mr. Sufer deprived intended homeless recipients of the benefits of these taxpayer funds were meant to purchase. The homeless are also victims in this case. Rather than provide 3 healthy meals, as the first assistant discussed, they were provided with substandard nutrition. He also allegedly stole the identities of legitimate companies to manufacture phony invoices, all while hiding his activities from the city of Los Angeles and the LAHSA. As was previously pointed out, we joined the first assistant U.S. attorney to announce 2 related fraud investigations in October. The first involved Cody Holmes, who allegedly submitted phony bank records and manufactured accounts to defraud the state of California out of millions. And the second involved Stephen Taylor, who allegedly used fake bank statements and lied to lenders in order to obtain loans and lines of credit for his real estate business. In all of these cases, defendants greedily targeted funds meant for vulnerable homeless, many of whom are suffering from mental illness and addiction. These are complex financial investigations, and FBI experts are working with our federal counterparts and prosecutors are dedicated to rooting out this fraud. We have additional investigations underway and are committed to uncovering additional fraud. That said, we ask anyone with information about homelessness fraud to contact the FBI. Anyone living in California has dealt with the homelessness crisis in one way or another, whether it has affected your family, friends, business, or your neighborhood. To know that the very funds allocated to alleviate their plight are being stolen to line the pockets of individuals with millions of dollars should concern every taxpayer and resident of California. Every dollar stolen is a dollar that can no longer be spent to alleviate the homelessness crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'd like to invite IRS Criminal Investigation Special Agent in Charge, Tyler Hatcher.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. As you've heard, my name is Tyler Hatcher. I'm the Special Agent in Charge of IRS Criminal Investigation here in Los Angeles. Approximately 9 months ago, as First Assistant Essayli said, we joined the U.S. Attorney and our federal partners to form the Homelessness, Fraud, and Corruption Task Force. Our goal of that task force is to investigate where hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars were spent to determine if those funds were used for their intended purpose. Today, we announced, as you've heard, the arrest of Alexander Sufer, 42 of Westwood, on federal criminal complaint charging him with fraud. This investigation wasn't a simple case of winning contracts and then just taking off with the money. This is a case full of lies, deceit, and pilfering money intended on addressing one of the most prolific problems in Los Angeles County. The complaint details how Sufer defrauded the city and county of Los Angeles and other public entities out of approximately $23 million intended to combat homelessness. Instead, he used it for personal gain. Sufer was the executive director of Abundant Blessings, a Hyde Park-based charity contracted by LAHSA to provide housing and meals for the homeless population. Between 2018 and 2025, Sufer received, like I said, approximately $23 million in homeless housing funds, $5 million directly from Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, or LAHSA, and $17 million through Special Services for Groups, Inc., which were all funded by taxpayer and public money. By July of 2023, Sufer had contracts to provide housing and supportive services to over 600 homeless participants at multiple sites across South Los Angeles. Instead of fulfilling these obligations, as you've heard, he spent $7 million on a home in Westwood, approximately $475,000 on a luxury home in Greece, paid for private fundings for schools, as you've heard, luxury goods, as well as other things that clearly did not go to the homeless issues. Sufer went on to lie to LAHSA about how the funds were spent. He fabricated invoices, created fictitious entities, vendors, and landlord agreements to hide his fraud. He even claimed to have an overseeing board that did not exist to further this fraud. For all the fraud mentioned, like was said, we arrested Sufer this morning at his home. He'll make his initial appearance later. We will continue to work with our federal partners to address the homelessness issues, and as First Assistant Essayli said, we are committed to making sure that public money raised and dedicated to these problems in Los Angeles County will be spent and accounted for as they were intended. Thank you.
Now, I'm gonna like to introduce Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman, who we're very proud to work with, and we're glad LA finally has a real DA again. And so Nathan has a independent parallel investigation regarding Mr. Sufer, and he's gonna make a few comments on that now.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Nathan Hochman. I'm the District Attorney of Los Angeles County. I'd like to thank First Assistant Essayli for the federal investigation. Because often what you will hear is that the locals, the DA's office, the state, and the federal government are working together in joint task forces. We go after narcotics traffickers. We go after human traffickers. And we work together in those task forces. But there are occasions, and this is one, where we actually conduct independent parallel investigations. Because it turns out that the DA's office and the US Attorney's office have overlapping jurisdiction when it comes to fraud that occurs here in LA County. So what you've heard up until now is the federal case. The federal case against Mr. Sufer, and as I will be discussing, anything I say is not evidence that we are going to present. My words are not the evidence. The evidence will be actual witness testimony, it'll be documents, it'll be presented in a court of law to overcome the presumption of innocence that Mr. Sufer will have in that court of law until we actually prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury of 12 people who find unanimously that Mr. Sufer has committed the various criminal actions in which he is charged. So he has been charged with wire fraud in the federal case, and they have filed a very detailed complaint that is publicly available. But there's also now a state criminal complaint. This state criminal complaint has charged state offenses. These are conflict of interest charges based on the fact that Mr. Sufer, who engaged in 11 different contracts directly through abundant blessings, also, as we have alleged, and we will prove in a court of law, was violating the conflict of interest statutes because he was not revealing to the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority, LAHSA, the fact that when he said he has leased agreements, for instance, with various residences that he is supposedly housing the homeless in, that he actually owned those residences. So he's basically leasing from himself and didn't reveal that conflict of interest. So that represents 11 different counts that we have charged in the state criminal complaint. In addition, Mr. Sufer was investigated twice, once by the investigators from the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority, LAHSA, and once by the Office of the City Controller. In each one of those investigations, he provided a whole raft of fraudulent documentation trying to legitimize the fraud that he had been conducting. Each one of those represents 2 felony counts, including an enhancement for doing this for over $500,000, which means that Mr. Sufer, when we convict him on the state criminal charges, is looking up to 17 years in state prison. In addition, we have alleged 5 additional counts of forgery. Because one of the things that, as it's alleged in our complaint, and you hear more details in the federal complaint, what Mr. Sufer would do is that when he was confronted by these investigations, so for instance, he said he provided meals through a place called Revolution Kitchen. And he then provided invoices, supposedly, from Revolution Kitchen to these auditors to back up the charges that he had submitted to LAHSA to get paid. Turns out, Revolution Kitchens never heard of him or these particular charges. When they looked at the actual documents that he said were Revolution Kitchen invoices, they shook their head. And they said, no way, that's not us. And he did this over and over and over again, trying to justify after the fact that he had actually had legitimate expenses for meals. And you saw in one of those slides that he was supposed to provide 3 nutritious, healthy, balanced meals, and that's what he was being paid for all the homeless people that he was in charge of, 600 homeless people. And he gave them ramen and a microwave. And yet he billed as if he was giving these nutritious meals and provided these fake invoices to LASA and their auditors to justify the hundreds of thousands of dollars on some contracts and overall $5 million he got directly from LASA. And let me explain that for a moment. When Mr. Sufer started out back in 2018, he didn't directly get the contract from LASA. Turns out he was a subcontractor for another company called SGG. And he did that for a number of years. But then in 2021 and 2022, he said, why am I going to be a subcontractor? Why don't I just go to LASA directly and have them pay me directly? That way nobody takes any of the money out. I get all the money. And that's exactly what he did, to the tune of $5 million, 11 different contracts. And those are the 11 different contracts that represent the 11 counts of conflict of interest that we have charged. And what Mr. Sufer then did again is that as he was being confronted, as most fraudsters do, as most people who actually have no interest in serving the people they're supposed to serve do, is that rather than admit that he did something wrong and hand the money back, he doubled down on his crimes. First stating that he actually provided this money, then he tripled down on his crimes, submitting fake invoices. And when he's confronted by the auditors about the fake invoices, he quadruples down and submits different fake invoices. This is the life that Mr. Sufer was living during these times, holding himself out to be this legitimate businessman, providing meals and rooms for the homeless. How noble of Mr. Sufer. But he was using Measure H funds. These are funds that the voters of LA County voted on to provide money directly to the homeless. That is where the heart and thinking of the voters here, we want to help the homeless. Also, he accessed the Inside Safe funds, in addition to the federal funds that were dedicated for the homeless. So here we have a county that really has shown up. It's not a bunch of words in this county that we care about the homeless, it's action. And we have gone ahead and provided literally billions of dollars, trusting that LASA would find basically contractors who would provide meals and rooms for the homeless. And rather than do his job, as First Assistant Essayli talked about, he went ahead and ripped off the voters of LA County. He ripped off the taxpayers of LA County, and sadly and tragically, he ripped off the homeless. That is inexcusable, and we will prove that in a court of law over the next number of months. Mr. Sufer called his company Abundant Blessings. But the only abundant blessings he gave were to himself. Call it abundant financial blessings to Mr. Sufer and his family. You heard about the houses. You heard about the trips. You heard about the vacation houses. You heard about the shopping sprees into Chanel and Hermes. When you read the federal complaint, you'll see that part of the homeless money that should have gone to the homeless instead went to Mr. Sufer's feet. He literally bought for $1,250 men's loafers lined with calfskin. For his wife, he bought for $910 from Hermes sandals lined with goatskin. And for $2,450, he bought from Hermes a men's trotting jacket. This is how the money was spent by Mr. Sufer instead of for meals and rooms for the homeless. So this is, again, the type of case that you'll not only see the federal government through its task force be involved with, but you will see the DA's office running often parallel and independent investigations. So Mr. Sufer, if he thinks he's only going to be dealing with the federal authorities, that is incorrect. After he gets done dealing with the federal authorities, then we'll have our chance to deal with Mr. Sufer in state court. And my message again to the Mr. Sufers of the world, the people who've illegally gone ahead and defrauded the homeless programs out of either dollars, hundreds of thousands, or millions of dollars, stop, and go give the money back. You go give the money back today, we'll take that into consideration in what type of charge and what type of sentence we seek against you. But if we have to go out and do this investigation as the special agents have described and go and get you, it is not going to go well for you. In fact, what Mr. Sufer will experience is he will not be unhoused in the federal or state system. He actually will receive housing, a good room in a state prison and a federal prison. And yes, I will assure Mr. Sufer that he will get 3 healthy, balanced, and nutritious meals every day in prison. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll take a couple questions if you guys have any.
How long is he facing in total? You mentioned 17 years. Is it longer with?
Well, he's looking up to 20 years in federal system. It's we have a sentencing guidelines range, so the judge will make the ultimate determination, but he's looking at up to 20 years on the federal side. 17 years potentially on the state side. So there's a lot of ways that could end up being played out, but those are the maximum exposures.
Does it look like the vetting process and the checks and balances maybe failed the system?
I don't, this is my opinion as someone who was in the state legislature before, there was no vetting process. There was no accounting going on. I think LASA got a lot of pressure to account for where has all this money gone, because $24 billion spent over 5 years, the public demands results. We demand results, and we saw the homelessness problem continue to explode, and where's our money going? And so a lot of pressure came down on LASA to account for it, and there's been litigation, there's been lawsuits, federal lawsuits, and I think they've been unable to account for about $2 billion or something like that. And that's just in LA. So I don't believe there was sufficient vetting or accountability in place. When I was in the legislature, we asked for oversight hearings. No one wanted to have those conversations. They just want to keep pushing money out the door, billions after billions of dollars, because I guess it sounds good in a press release. Yes, sir.
Can I ask you, how did you find out about him? How did you go zero in on him?
So initially there was an investigation done by the controller's office, I believe, and then eventually the DA's office was involved as well, and then we were.
Yeah, that's the correct sequence. Initially, there was a LASA audit investigation. As actually detailed in the federal complaint, LASA got a tip that they needed to look at Abundant Blessings, because Abundant Blessings was not providing the rooms and the meals as they should under the contract. That then led to the LASA audit. Thereafter, there was an LA Office of the City Controller audit as well that followed. Each of those auditors received fake documents, as we will prove in court. And each of those auditors was lied to directly by Mr. Sufer, again, as we will prove in court. And I also want to mention that with me here is the prosecutor that will be on the state criminal case, Casey Higgins. We're also joined by 2 of the people who are running our public integrity division, the head deputy, Mark Bayard, and the assistant head deputy, Bjorn Dodd.
Any other questions?
Of those 600 people that he was supposed to take care of, did he find them himself, or were they sent to him? How did that work?
In his contracts, it spelled out how that would work. I don't have those details in front of me. A lot of the people that were being housed, like in motels, he was supposed to be paying for their rooms. He did not make the payments. And that's another way LASA was tipped off, is that they were about to evict these homeless people at some of these motels. So LASA had to come in and pay the bills directly. So LASA double paid to house some of the same people. So that's part of the scheme that Mr. Sufer was engaged in. Any other questions?
Why is he being arraigned in Orange County?
There is a electrical issue in the First Street Courthouse, so it's just a logistical thing. There's no special reason.
Can I ask you just one, you
Yes.
mentioned a bunch of other cases ongoing.
Yes, sir.
Do you expect that they're similar to this one?
Yes, similar. I mean, they're all similar in that they received millions of dollars of taxpayer funds intended to provide services to the homeless, and the money didn't go there. So the money goes to different places. We will find out where every dollar went. And really, until you had a new elected DA, until you had a new U.S. Attorney's Office here, a new administration under Attorney General Pam Bondi and the President, nobody was really looking out for the taxpayer. No one was doing these investigations. So our task force is pretty new for law enforcement. I mean, 9 months in, we already have 3 significant cases. That is not a lot of time in the law enforcement world. But we are going to be very aggressive. We've dedicated a tremendous amount of resources. We want to get to the bottom of the fraud. And I think, regardless of your political affiliation, people are united in their indignation and their disgust of how people like this can take advantage of funds intended to help those most in need, those people living, again, on the streets with no shelter, no food, and frankly, a lot of them are dying on the streets unnecessarily. So it's a huge tragedy. And we want to deter it. As Nathan said, we want to deter it. We don't want this to happen. If it's happening, they need to stop. They need to frankly come turn themselves in before we go knock on their door early one morning, because that will happen. So that's our message. All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.